There's one city in Spain that seems to have a bad name for itself. There's one city that was called the Sweaty Armpit of Spain on our YouTube channel. Today I'm going to explore this city to see why it does have a bad name, and is it really that bad? As you drive into the city from the motorway side and not the N332, because yes, if you drive down the N332 from Alicante, you're thinking that you're just driving into a normal town rather than a Mediterranean city. But if you drive in off the motorway, you pass a lot of new building works that's going on. And I have to say, it's impressive the amount of houses that are going to be building in this area. And then you come across this, a fantastically modern shopping centre in the Habaneras. Yes, we are in Torrevieja. And whilst it might not be as elegant as the like of Madrid, as we sit in front of the Christmas tree, or as nice as Barcelona, Malaga, Valencia, Torrevieja is classed as a city as we take a trip down into the city of Torrevieja. There are people that will point out that Torrevieja was never meant to be a city. It was always a fishing village. There are even buildings that are original from the fishing village. One-storey houses, only 2 streets away from the beach. People that over the years just refused to sell out to the cranes and the money and just keep their property the way it was over the years. There's one thing that's inevitable within cities, and that is change. And yes, even though they changed, and it saddens me at this point, because this building was iconic. This building is now up for sale, which means that the business that it once housed is closing down, or is closed. Which is sad, because when you think about it, when you lose the heart of any community, and this is what happens in places like Torrevieja, especially down this area, people sell out to holiday makers, people that want to have holiday apartments by the sea, but it takes the soul out of the city. And it's all fine having these brand new fancy buildings. Modern apartments getting built everywhere around the city. Places getting knocked down and new places getting built. But what does it bring? With new investment, new money, new apartment blocks, only 2 streets away from the seaside, you can see how it can be inviting for some people. But the reality is, these people don't stay here all the time. And in some parts of the year, this area can be like a ghost town. Yeah, it's got lots of cars parked at it, but it can be really quiet and dead. So is Torrevieja just a fishing village that got too big? Or is it a city with new buildings that look soulless and empty because the people that own them just use it for holidays? Now, while the city is littered with buildings from a bygone era when it was just a little fishing village, the family is either unwilling to sell the land, or the owners of the land and the buildings just can't be found. One thing that's for sure, if this was any other city on the Mediterranean, with buildings like this just being 1 street away from the seaside, you would think that they would be selling it for vast amounts of money. But no, in Torrevieja, buildings lie empty, apartments lie empty, as people only come here in the summer. Does that have the adverse effect on the city? For those that do enjoy Torrevieja, they enjoy some fantastic winter sunshine. Today there's lots of people on the beach, sunbathing, getting some winter rays, enjoying the sunshine, enjoying the calm waters today, which makes a change. Those guys enjoy the jet skis, some even take to the water on this late November day. People on the beaches, enjoying the sun. The reality is, many of these buildings sit packed up for the winter until the summer season starts once again. Now, whilst there's not many Spanish accents on the beach today, there are many people from many nationalities, and that's where maybe Torrevieja is its own victim of its own success. I think the fact is that Torrevieja is such a multicultural city now. It's not just British tourists that come to Torrevieja anymore. It's tourists of all nationalities. And as they come and sit and have their lunches, it's maybe a reminder to people that this one-time fishing village is no longer a fishing village, and it is a tourist resort. The fact is that even with this small bit of sand, you can have so many people just enjoying themselves, enjoying the winter sunshine. The reality is, this area was once full of houses this size. The area was a fishing village. It was never meant to be a big city. And can that have ultimately an adverse effect on the likes of Torrevieja? Because then you don't have the population here all year round to sustain such a big city, which then has the ongoing problem of streets like this one having apartments on them that no one stays in for most of the year. And the effect that that has on the local economy is that shops are shut down, restaurants are closed. But it's not all bad for Torrevieja, and it's not all graffiti. Years ago it was British and Irish that came to this city. And these days it's Russian, Ukrainians, Norwegians. I think British just outlast the Norwegians slightly. But as the British population gets older, what's then happening also is if a partner dies, the other partner tends to sell up and move back to the UK. Heading to crazy headlines like, why are people heading out of the clusters and back home? Well, that's the reality. Now, where you have restaurants like this, that's only one street back from the beach, and the only voices I can hear is Russian and Ukrainian, it's no wonder that the city gets a bad name as the sweaty armpit of Spain by some Spaniards. Now, the fact that people call it a city when it obviously was a fishing village, and you have to remember that the whole town was just single-storey buildings like this. But then developers move in, buy up the land, and turn single-storey houses into apartment blocks. Now, I'm currently 3 streets back, and even 3 streets back there are still old buildings like this one that have never been developed. And I think the irony is that there's a massive crane right behind it with buildings getting developed. And when you see that this little village or pueblo used to just be a one-storey houses, then decide to sell their property thinking it'll be for the betterment of the city, to now have an area that's just full of empty shops and no people. Is Torrevieja's growth, if you can call it that, upwards? Has it been good for the city? Has it been good for the one-time quaint little village that people thought they'll move here? I've met people over the years that have been here for over 30 years and they've seen some good developments and some things that have been bad for the city. But there's one thing that's for sure. For all the people that refuse to sell their property, there'll be ones that do, and then there'll be builders that run out of money and never finish buildings. There's another shop, another hairdresser's up for sale. Business just not viable. People will say there'll be a bubble to burst with the property, but the fact is, and the reality, there's more and more people who have been coming to Spain to see its architecture of its churches, to see the locals sit and play dominoes. Locals that have probably seen fantastic change in the city over the years. But the reality is, Torrevieja was never meant to be a city. It was never one of the big places on the Spanish map. And I think when you look at the old buildings, the old single-storey houses that are still dotted around vast parts of this town, it may be not the nicest town, but I'll tell you one thing, it's resilient in the fact that it keeps on growing, and growing it shall do. Torrevieja has a population of just over 91,000, and of that 91,000, just over 49,000 are Spanish, or in Spanish origin. So if you ever need an explanation into why there's these properties and why people just refuse to sell the properties and leave them in the original state and size of the little fishing village that was once known as Torrevieja, with population numbers that have doubled the size of the city, but the people aren't here all year round, it's no wonder that some of the areas can be seen as run down, whilst other parts of the city look new and modern and look like it should be placed somewhere else, not here. With more and more people moving into Torrevieja thinking that there's a riches of gold to be made on the Costa Blanca coastline, reality quickly sinks in that it's not a massive tourist zone all year round. Some businesses last, some businesses don't. But there's one thing for sure. With fantastic clear water and people in the sea on this late day in November, the calm seas and fantastic sunshine, and the ability to enjoy that all year round, it will always make sure that people do come to Torrevieja. Whether some people think that it's not a beautiful city, whether some people think that it's a sweaty armpit, like one Spanish gentleman said, people come for one thing and one thing only: the sun and the sea.